Hey YouTube, hope everyone is doing well. Primitive War is out, and I am going to do something a little unique with this review. First things first, I've read the Primitive War novel, and it's one of my favorite books. It's a great read, and I highly recommend it. With that said, the first half of this review, I'm going to look at it as if I've never read the novel. And then the second half of the review, I'm going to dive in and dissect some of the differences. Let's get into it. Okay, so this movie is definitely an indie movie. For the most part, its special effects are actually pretty good. There are some scenes where the dinosaurs actually look like you're watching one of the BBC or Apple Plus TV shows. And then there are some scenes where the special effects dip a little bit to kind of sort of what I would consider a TV worthy visual effect. They're not bad per se, but there are some noticeable differences in qualities at times. And that's really the theme throughout this movie. Whether you're looking at the pacing or the acting or the dialogue, they all kind of sort of yo yo back and forth from what I would consider to probably be good to average, but they never really dip below that average. If you were going into this movie expecting top notch, insert favorite actor and favorite visual effects team here, you're not going to get that. What you will get, however, is just fun popcorn entertainment. There's wall to wall action and dinosaurs in this movie. And even when the characters are kind of just walking around the forest, you have dinosaurs in the background doing dinosaurs things. They're sleeping, they're playing, they're fighting, and it's actually kind of sort of cool that they're existing around these characters, and because of that, you never really lose that dinosaur threat and that dinosaur tension because they're constantly on the screen. The filmmakers tried to stick as close to accurate, and I'm going to put accurate in air quotes because science on these prehistoric things are always changing, but accurate representations of dinosaurs. Some of the smaller dinosaurs have feathers, the larger ones are scaly. They have dinosaurs behaving seemingly the way dinosaurs behaved, but I will say that the accuracy at times is at a fault. Main culprit is the Tyrannosaur. It's known for its bite force. When the thing chomps down in this movie and it misses its target, it makes this loud, audible pump kind of sounding noise. And while this may be accurate with the jaws slamming shut because of the bite force, uh, again, I'm going to put accurate in quotes. It's silly to hear on screen. The big menacing beast popping through the forest as it's chasing our main characters. It's a cartoonish kind of sounding noise, and it really loses a lot of the ferocity that this thing should have when it is chasing them. I thought at first for sure that it was an audio bug. I thought the speakers honestly blew out in the theater. Um, uh, but it kept happening over and over again. Every time this thing would chomp down and it would miss, it would make this popping noise. I had to laugh and shake my head a little bit over that. It may have been accurate to what the Tyrannosaur actually sounded like in real life. I mean, I suppose we'll never know, but uh, it was a poor design choice. If they would have made it a more menacing snap or thudding noise, I think that would have been a whole lot better for the film. The rest of the dinosaurs are great, especially the brief Spinosaur scene with them swimming and fighting and fishing in the water. There's a small fight with a Triceratops. It's pretty cool stuff. As I said before, this movie yo-yos back and forth, and one of the things that yo-yos between is taking itself seriously and knowing that it's a campy B-schlock film. There are moments where it takes a serious tone, and I was thinking to myself in the theaters, "Dang, this is gonna get really dark." But then like I said, it yo-yos back, and there's some silly dialogue or some silly scenario or scene that's just kind of sort of just a little bit over the top. And I think if this had a larger budget, it could have been made into a very dark and very serious dinosaur film that would have just honestly blown the Jurassic Park franchise out of the water. But given the fact that it had this lower budget, they worked with what they had, and we kind of got this mashup between serious and camp. And unfortunately, its limited run in the theaters, I think, is going to hurt its contest between itself and Jurassic Park, the monopoly that Jurassic Park has in theaters. I don't know if this movie was ever positioning itself to try and take over that, to take over that hold that Jurassic Park has in the theaters, but given the fact that this had a lower budget and a limited run, it's not going to do it. To showcase what I'm explaining here, one of the encounters with the dinosaurs is in a cave system. It's actually, I think, probably one of the first encounters that our characters come across, and it's chaos and it's disorienting, and the scene could have been really really cool had there been a bigger budget. For instance, uh there was a movie a couple years ago that came out called 65, and in that movie there's a very dark scene with an oviraptor, and it's a very cool scene. There's limited light. It plays with the limited light, and it plays with flashing effects and things like that. But in this movie, because of the low budget, they don't have the ability to produce the same type of effects and the same type of visuals that that movie had. And what we end up with is this blinding strobe effect that the scene goes on a little too long. And honestly, after the scene was over, I was seeing spots for a few minutes. Now, this scene could have been something really cool and could have been like a real staple on the movie as, one of the highlights, but it ended up just being pretty much a flashy mess. Additionally, there are moments where the editing could have been a whole hell of a lot better. Two scenes really stick out for me, and three scenes actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, three scenes. One is when the team members, one of the team members, I'm gonna keep them nameless here for spoiler reasons, but they're injured and they're audibly grunting and groaning. They're laying on the ground, and it's a wide shot, but we can see the character's face, and he's not, really grimacing, or his mouth isn't moving really at all. And it's a weird edit because, this guy's actually like screaming in pain, like it's coming through, it's pumping through the audio, and his character isn't reacting. So the editing there is off. And then the one of the second scenes that I'm thinking of is when Trisha Helfer's character comes to rescue Baker and Leon. They were in pursuit from the father tyrannosaur. They fall over a cliff, and her rescue is pretty much just her screaming, "Hey, come here! I'm over here," and that's all it really is. She keeps saying that she saved them, but in reality, they didn't really need saving. They were away from the tyrannosaur. They got themselves back into the forest and out of the tyrannosaur's way, and she kind of just appeared out of nowhere. It was an odd edit. Maybe if we had a transition to, from them being chased by the T-Rex to, transition over to her in the forest studying some of the dinosaurs, and then, she hears the commotion from the chase in the distance, and then, it cuts to Baker and Leon, falling off the cliff. Um, and then, that would have prompted her to come over and save them, but as it is now, it just kind of she kind of just they fell over the cliff and poof, she's kind of there. So that's a really odd, um that was a really odd edit that they did there. And then lastly, there was a scene where uh our characters are all reunited, and then there's some rustling in the bushes, and I think it's Baker says, if anything moves, kill it. But then there's no transition between that and what happens next. And what happens next is all of the characters are a little bit more spread out than where they were, and there's dinosaurs everywhere, and the jump between that dialogue and then all of the dinosaurs all over the place was a huge jump. I mean, there was no introduction to the it's weird. You have to see it. It's hard to explain, but it's just like there needed to be a segue, maybe one of the dinosaurs popping out of the bushes or something, but it was just a quick jump cut, and it was, I don't want to say it was disorienting, but it was like, whoa, where did all this come from? Along with the editing, this kind of goes hand in hand, I guess, if you will. I feel like they didn't know how to work their way around dinosaurs versus guns, which is pretty key for this movie. There are moments where the dinosaurs are 100% affected by bullets, specifically the raptors. You know, they're blasting at these raptors in some scenes, and the raptors are shrugging it off. And then there are moments where they are blasting at these Utah raptors and they drop like a fly. So the consistency there just is questionable. That there's even a moment where they're shooting at the giant Quetzalcoatl, and you can say maybe that they were missing some of them, but then there's a scene where they blast them, and it dies in a few bullets. So why were they not just shooting all of them? It questions like this that arise when you're watching this movie. If you overlook these things, these small little yo-yos and vis effects, acting, dialogue, if you suspend your disbelief and realize that you're going to a movie about dinosaurs in Vietnam, don't take yourself or the movie too seriously. Just sit back and be entertained. You'll have fun. Let me warn you though, this is an adult movie. If you see dinosaurs or coming to the big screen and you want to take your kids, don't do it. This movie's graphic. And while the novel really pushed the brutal nature of these things and the blood and the guts, the movie does tone it down just a little bit from the novel. However, people are still getting their entrails pulled out, and there's a good amount of gore in this one. It's not over the top horror movie gore, it's not blood packets everywhere, but it is prevalent. Okay, now I'm going to jump over and review this as if you have read the novel. Stick around because even if you haven't read the novel, some of the things in here are key. You should probably know them. And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but they tried to put all of the cool dinosaur scenes from the novel into the movie, and for the most part, that they actually did so. We got a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, so it's crammed. Uh, but they needed more character development. I'm shaking my head saying that. In the novel, these soldiers are flawed, yet they have redeeming qualities to them. So their flaws may be really big, but you want to see them break through and you want to see them survive and overcome their flaws. And in the novel, some of them don't, and it really makes from dramatic story arcs. And unfortunately, this movie focuses so much on the dinosaur scenes, we lose a lot of that character development that's in the book. The only ones who kind of sort of really get their chance to mimic their book persona are Eli and Logan. Baker's story is even dialed back a bit. He doesn't have the burns from his previous mission and the weight that he carries from his previous mission and missions. In the book, it's not translated into the film. If they would have shaved this movie down to an hour and 40 minutes and then bumped the character development up a bit, they could have saved some of the budget that they used on the dinosaur scenes, especially in that ending, which I'll get to a little bit later. And then they could have upped the visual effects for the rest of the film. And I think that probably would have been a good thing. Along with the character development, I feel the drama and the tension between the three factions was lost in the movie. In the novel, you have the Americans, the Russians, and then honestly, the Alpha Raptor Pack is kind of a faction of its own. and they're all competing and leading their packs in their own way. You never really get a chance to see the Russians operate, and their motives are pretty vague in the movie. It's briefly mentioned in a line or two of dialogue at the end of the movie, but otherwise they are just kind of seemingly there. Even Borodin, the hidden Russian mastermind of the whole thing, just kind of appears and then fades away. And the Viet Cong who are in the novels or in the novel aren't really in the movie very much. I think there's one character I want to say, but their story isn't even fleshed out in the movie either. And the hierarchy of the Raptors is never really established. The main Utah Raptor, who is aptly named Cyclops, is visibly different in the movie. It's sporting its blue and green feathers like it does in the book, but aside from that, you don't really get the sense that this thing is in charge and commanding the other Raptors the way that it does in the book. Overall, though, I have to say this sticks pretty close to the book. Some characters die that don't die in the books, which is a shame because it's kind of a big tie to the second books. And then some characters are race and gender swapped, which honestly has no bearing on the story at all. So I'm not really sure why they did it. But yeah, I mean, if you didn't read the books, you never would have known. So it's a big nothing burger. I don't know why it happened. That said, Xavier, who is meant to be a Native American, I think was played by an Australian in this movie. And he plays heavily into the book with his tracking skills and his knowledge of animals. And it's lost in the movie. There's, I think, maybe one scene with him informing the team, where they need to go because something is stalking them. But his character is heavily pushed to the background in relation to what he is in the novel. Andre Wynn isn't in the movie either. He is changed to a female, Trisha Helfer, and she is not only an assistant to Borodin, building the collider, but also happens to be a paleontologist. So instead of Wynn, who they might have mentioned that she's supposed to be his husband or his wife, sorry. I'm not sure. I might have missed that. But instead of Wynn being trapped in the jungle for a year and knowing these dinosaurs just simply based off of observation, what we have here is a character who is still addicted to morphine and flawed and wrestling with the guilt over what she's done, but now she's able to pinpoint and recommend actions to our soldiers, our US soldiers, based on her dinosaur knowledge because she is a paleontologist. Lastly, the ending of this movie is different. The T Rex battle with the tanks and the storming of the compound, all of that is in there. That's all good. And that is obviously from the books, as much as I can recall. But once the Utah Raptors hit, it gets a little B schlocky. I think they were trying to build up the drama and make a huge ending action piece. But what ends up happening is a row of soldiers of characters are essentially standing in pretty much a straight line while all of these dinosaurs are surrounding them and they're blasting their guns and no one is reloading. The visual effects are getting a little hokey at this point, just based off of the sheer amount of visual effects that is needed here, and it's a little ridiculous. If they would have stuck closer to the book's ending, the visual effects would have been lessened, and the drama, for what I think, would definitely have been intensified tenfold. It was like the whole movie they couldn't figure out if they wanted to be campy or serious, and at the end they were just like, "Fuck it, crank the knob to 15 and rip it off." It's it's not Sharknado silly, but it is certainly a lot. So, Primitive War. The more I think about this movie, the more I've pushed aside my feelings of wanting it to be taking over Jurassic Park as the monopoly in the dinosaur franchise for the silver screen. When I was going into this movie and when I saw the trailer, I really was hoping that this movie was going to compete with Jurassic Park, and that's not going to be the case. But I enjoyed this film. The more I think about it, the more I just flat out enjoyed this film. There's no political messaging. There's no preaching of any sort. It is just what it is. It's an entertaining dinosaur movie. Don't get me wrong. When I say it is what it is, I don't think the masses are going to like this one. I think it's going to be a cult following. And I think down the line, you're going to have this small group of people that are just all about this movie. But as it stands now, I think if you go see it, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. Pretty much if you like dinosaurs, if you're really into dinosaurs, I think you're going to like this movie. It's a little campy, sure, but I think if you like dinosaurs, you're going to have fun with this movie. And I don't think there's going to be any in between, oh, it was okay. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case. That said, I'm going to give this movie a couple of different scores here. If you've never read the novel, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. If you have read the novel and you're expecting everything that the novel gave us, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. And with that in mind, overall, my personal score, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Happy, sweet, medium, middle of those two. I'm not going to rush out to add it to my collection, but when it hits sale, yeah, I'm absolutely going to add this to my collection. And I think that you're definitely going to want to have multiple viewings of this one. Look, I would watch this one in a heartbeat over Jurassic World Rebirth. And honestly, I think a lot of people are going to compare it to that movie because those are the two dinosaur movies that are out right now. This one's a whole hell of a lot better than Jurassic World Rebirth. I wouldn't touch that thing with a 20-foot pole. Let me know what you guys thought about Primitive War in the comments down below. Did you guys enjoy the film? Did you read the book? And if so, how do you think it holds up on the silver screen? And that's all I've got for you guys today. I'll see you in the next one.